Oh my god, hey! Welcome back to my Stagey YouTube channel. If you are meeting me for the first time, hello, my name is Mickey Joe and I am obsessed with all things theatre. I am a freelance theatre critic and a content creator based here in the UK. And this is my Stagey YouTube channel where recently I review shows that I've been invited to see on this side of the Atlantic, and I talk about drama and gossip happening on the other side of the Atlantic, over on Broadway. If that sounds like the kind of thing you enjoy watching on YouTube, feel free to subscribe to my Stagey YouTube channel for plenty more content coming all summer. I am trying to bring you a video every 2 days. And if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give me a super thanks down below. If my voice sounds rough in this one, it's because I got back from this particular press night last night at 3 AM via a taxi that was replacing a rail replacement bus that didn't exist. So it was a rail replacement. So today, the show that I want to talk to you about is Crazy for You. Now, this is a revival of the Gershwin jukebox musical of sorts, if you like. It has a plot based around it, but it ties together a lot of these old classic Gershwin songs, like I've Got Rhythm and Someone to Watch Over Me, and Crazy for You itself. A nice work if you can get it. It's being revived this summer as the main summer musical from Chichester Festival Theatre. This is one of the leading regional theatres here in the UK. It gave us revivals of Gypsy starring Imelda Staunton and Sweeney Todd, where she joined forces with Michael Ball. It gave us the revival of Singing in the Rain that has subsequently toured all around the country. And it was also where the new version of Half a Sixpence starring Charlie Stemp originally premiered before transferring to London. Charlie Stemp is returning to Chichester with this show and is joined by a killer Broadway creative team, and a Broadway creative team that have been attached to this show in the past. These are the same creatives, many of them, working on this show again, but in a new version, especially for Chichester Festival Theatre. So this was already a very exciting prospect. Despite a heat wave and train chaos, I managed to get to the press night last night, and I'm going to tell you what I thought of the show. So it was clear to me pretty early on in the first act that this was a 5-star show, and I do appreciate why some critics might give it less. You know, the biggest drawback here is the plot that ties all of this music and ties all of these numbers together. It's a little bit flimsy, it's a little bit old-timey. If you've seen a lot of classic shows, you know the kind of thing that I'm talking about. To give you a basic summary, it concerns Bobby Child, who is this young guy who works in a bank, but he wants to be a dancer in the Zangler Follies. He gets sent by his mother to go and foreclose on this old theatre in a little western middle of nowhere in Nevada, ends up falling in love with a local girl who lives there, and they try and put on a show to save the theatre. It's one of those. If the plot is kind of paper thin at times, at the very least, it does you the justice of moving along swiftly. Like, it's not paper thin and slow like some other old musicals that I could name. But I think where it may lack some weight and where it may lack some purpose, it has an awful lot of charm, and you can make a conscious choice to decide to enjoy it. You don't have to expect Shakespearean levels of plot from this. Because what you do have is just this flawless Broadway razzmatazz execution from the beginning as the overture was starting. And Chichester Festival Theatre has this very specific stage where it's a thrust, and audiences are sat around 3 sides of the stage, so you can't have big set pieces coming on from the wings unless they can be pushed forwards. It's a very specific stage that presents a lot of challenges to directors. So at the beginning of the show, as the overture was starting, they opened these 2 little grates near the front of the stage, and it all just flooded with haze. It was dreamlike. It's not something I've ever seen done before at Chichester, and that just wowed me instantly. And it was that level of awe that was not only maintained throughout the show, but just kept being exceeded. The things they did on that stage were miraculous. So I have to talk about Charlie Stemp. This was a big homecoming for him. He was returning as the star of Half a Sixpence. This audience were really ready to root for him and already thought of him as such a star. The performance he gives here, I could call career-defining. It's absolutely incredible. I did see him in Half a Sixpence, and I've never seen him in Mary Poppins, but I've seen a lot of out-of-context performance clips, and he was great in both of those shows. Phenomenally talented. What he does here goes beyond talent, and it's just about showmanship and exuding that natural charisma. He wows with every single line. He lands every single joke. He does accents. The way that he dances is ridiculous. He is just mesmerizing to watch as a dancer. I've never seen him have to execute as full-out choreography as he does in this show. You know, previous shows, Half a Sixpence, he had a couple little moments. Mary Poppins is obviously as dance intense as it is, but this was on another level with the balletic choreography that he's doing with the jumps and the pirouettes and the constant tap. He just paddles and shuffles his way through the entire show. He does it with such ease, with an unrelenting smile, and it's impossible not to be won over by him. He is fantastic in this role. Far and away the best performance I've seen from him, and possibly the best leading performance I have seen in a musical this year. I'd have to think about that because that's a big statement, but it was phenomenal. And Carly Anderson is just as fantastic opposite him. She comes in with this great attitude and sass as the kind of only woman living in this town, trying to be feisty and gutsy. She also dances up a storm. She sings beautifully. She gets a particular moment in the second act where she gets to belt her head off at the end of a little romantic reprise. And she's just an absolute star as well. And the two of them have such great chemistry. The other woman in Bobby Child's life is played by Meryl Answer, who you may know from the cast of Heathers. And she really impressed me here. Like, I've seen her in a couple of workshop performances previously, but it took me a while to even recognize her in this role. She is glammed up to the 12s, and she's playing his kind of domineering fiance who has no interest in any of his dreams or any of his desires, and she has a very funny arc throughout the show, but she just brings this extra quality to it. She brings this whole other dimension to the plot by being a part of it, and she gets some really great comedy lines. She has this great seduction song in the second act, and she goes and drapes herself over a man who sat at a table with two other men, and she pauses for the perfect amount of time before turning to them and just going move in the most guttural voice. It's hilarious. It's one of the best laughs in the show. And I was obsessed with her throughout that number. Like, it takes very little to satisfy me as a featured actress in a musical, and if you can do those slow leg extensions in a red dress while on a table while belting up a storm, that's really all I need. And the other one I must mention is Tom Eden. Tom Eden, I feel like, really came to prominence when he was playing the elderly, nervous, jittery waiter in One Man, Two Guvnors. He went from the National Theatre production to Broadway and got a Tony nomination for that. He has since appeared in various other things here in the UK. He has been Thénardier in Les Mis not too long ago. In this, he is playing Bella Zangler, the impresario who runs the Follies and comes out to the West chasing one of the dancers whom he is in love with. Little does he know when he gets there that Charlie Stemp has been impersonating him in the West, and this makes for a lot of hilarity. What Tom Eden is always so great at is the physical comedy, and he has so many moments where he can just keep an audience laughing for far longer than they should just by reacting to things and just turning his head and doing it 5 or 6 times and just keep doing takes to the same thing and different expressions of shock. He's hilarious and completely masterful in the way that he delivers this physical comedy. What I like is that when he arrives at the end of the very first act, you think he's going to be this villainous presence to the plot, and he just comes in as this playful and buffoonish, lovable character, and you really don't have any cause or any reason to dislike any of the characters in this plot because everyone gets redeemed to a certain extent, which I like, which I enjoy. You're just having fun in this show, and we don't need a downer. So the reason that this show is just blissful is because of the direction and the choreography by legendary Broadway director-choreographer Susan Stroman. She has been responsible for so many great shows over the years, and what she does with this is just spellbinding. She has no issues whatsoever navigating the challenging Chichester Festival Theatre space. She has things coming up through the floor, she has scenery that can be pushed forwards, and at various points she basically creates set pieces using dancers. The way she uses choreography, she does some things I have never seen done before on a stage. It's like Stomp almost during I've Got Rhythm with the use of props. And she does 2 things in particular in this show that will always win me over. I love few things in this world like I love well-executed uniform tap dancing, and there is plenty of that to go around. The other thing I enjoy is whimsical and witty choreography where you're dancing, but there's a reason to it. I love moments where one person is dancing and then everyone else copies, and it's like, oh, we're doing it too, we're doing it, we all know the dance. Love those, that happens here. And it's just the simple little things. I love a girl going to run upstage and the boy just blocks her path, so she runs another way and he blocks her path. And then there's an orchestral sweep and then they go into this lovely pair dance moment together. Stroman understands classic Broadway choreography like few other people in this world, and you can really see that here. So the second number of the show already feels like a standout number. Charlie Stemp is dancing with all of these girls around him. It's this big production number with feathers and sequins. He is doing crazy tap choreography and gets an enormous ovation from the audience. Then the next number comes and gets an enormous ovation from the audience. And this level of enthusiasm and this uproarious reception does not cease or quieten throughout the evening. This comes to a head at the most when I've Got Rhythm happens at the end of the first act. And the way that this has been staged is just extraordinary. They have all of these random materials and props that they would have in an old West desert location. And it's basically like Stomp, where they are tap dancing on these lids and just all doing paddle steps. And they have these big sheets of corrugated iron that they are dancing on, and then they're tapping on, and then they're tilting up and someone's sliding down them, and then they lift them, they do other things. It's remarkable. And then they pull them apart from each other and someone's behind it. Every single moment you are watching that stage, something is happening. It is a visual feast of musical theatre excellence. This is old school musical theatre done to absolute perfection. There are so many points in the middle of I've Got Rhythm that draw spontaneous applause. It doesn't hurt that it's the catchiest song that Gershwin has ever written. Today, I still have Old Man Trouble, I Don't Mind Him going round and round and round in my head. There's one particular moment where they bring out these axes and the female ensemble stand on them and they're picked up and they swing like pendulums. Then they do this thing, I can't even work out how they did it, but like the men hold either sides of an axe and turn in a circle, and the girls are holding onto them, so they're on this level above, so they have created this turning set piece just out of human bodies and sticks. It's ridiculous, it's so fun, it's just effervescent in its joy and its spectacle, and there's a huge instant standing ovation from the entire auditorium the moment the number finishes. And it's basically the end of Act 1. There's a tiny little bit that happens afterwards, but it feels like a mid-show standing ovation. Like people were standing for the number and not because they knew the act was ending. That's the distinction, and that's what felt special. At the other end of the scale, there's a real highlight in Act 2, when Charlie Stemp and Tom Eden, while dressed the same, they are both dressed as Tom Eden's character Bella Zangler, they have this comedy number where they are copying each other, sat either side of a saloon table and both drinking their sorrows away about women. And the comedy comes from how completely perfectly in sync they are, and then the little ways that they play off of that. Both of them completely understand the tone and the comedy of this moment, and that's what makes it fantastic. It's just very crowd pleasing. It's really funny. I think this is a great show for Chichester Festival Theatre specifically, the kind of market that normally makes up this audience. It's a little bit of an older audience. I think they are going to love this show very much. You know, don't expect the most revolutionary plot in the world, but expect to have a joyous time. I think so many people will have plenty to enjoy about this. Your grandparents' generation will enjoy this show. And yet I also loved this show. If you like old school joyous musical theatre, if you liked 42nd Street, Singing in the Rain, if you liked Anything Goes last summer, I was so completely transported back to the Barbican when last summer I sat there and I said, yes, this is the show of the year. This is musical theatre perfection. I felt exactly the same way about Crazy for You last night at Chichester. And I am calling it the show of the year so far. This, for me, is the most fun I've had in a theatre. It's spectacular, and it feels like this production, it's not only destined for the West End, I feel like this production is destined for Broadway, especially with the Broadway American creatives who have come over to work on it over here. There were a lot of interesting people in the audience, let me tell you. Not only were there American agents in and American creatives, Sir Cameron Mackintosh was there watching. Now, obviously, he has given Charlie Stemp dispensation to leave Mary Poppins for a little period to go and do this, so he has a vested interest in this show, but I wouldn't be surprised if he is already eyeing it as a producer to bring it into town somewhere, because it's stunning. So mark my words, I believe we will be seeing this show in the West End and on Broadway, this production, soon. I always have a lovely time at Chichester Festival Theatre. The trains made it challenging to get to and from the venue, but it was completely worth it for how great this show was. What I really liked about it this time is they had a cute little photo booth outside that you could take photos in. It took Erin and I 2 attempts to get this right, because on the first one it didn't occur to me you had to sit on the seat. I've had passport photos taken before. I don't know why I lost my mind at this moment, but there's a lovely little 2x2 collage we have of just our torsos because we didn't sit down, and then the next one was cute. Oh, I have them here, I can show you. Here we have foolishness and success. Look at that, isn't that cute? I'm not sure if that was something they were just doing for press night. Hopefully it's there for the entire run, so make sure you arrive early enough that you can go and get some super cute photos that actually came out looking really nice. Lovely lighting in that little photo booth at Chichester Festival Theatre. So those are my thoughts on Crazy for You. Run, do not walk to go and see this production. Get a ticket now as all the reviews are coming out. I personally think it's a fantastic 5-star show. I have done a written review of this, and if you want to read it, as always, you can find all of my reviews on ShowScore. I've popped the link in the description and in the pinned comment down below, so you can sign up to ShowScore using that link, and you will automatically be following me on there, and you can keep up to date with all of the reviews that I have written. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to subscribe to my Stagey YouTube channel for plenty more content coming very soon about all your favorite shows. Also, if you want to support me as a Stagey content creator, feel free to give me a super thanks on this video, or go to patreon.com/MickeyJoeTheatre, where you can also gain access to some exclusive photo and video content. I hope that everyone is staying safe and that you have a Stagey day.
For 10 more seconds, I'm Mickey Joe Theatre. Oh my god, hey, thanks for watching, have a Stagey day. Subscribe!